I had been driving north on Highway 927 for most of the day. The storm had been building since morning, but I had hoped to make it through before it got worse. By late afternoon, the snow had grown so thick that I could barely see the edges of the road. I decided to pull into a small truck stop I had passed earlier. The lot was almost empty. A few trucks sat scattered, half covered in snow. I shut down the engine and leaned back in my seat. The snow fell so heavily it blurred everything outside, turning the world into white nothingness. I considered staying in the cab for a while, waiting for the snow to lighten. My delivery was late, but safety came first. I poured some coffee from my thermos and sipped slowly. The wind howled outside, shaking the roof. The heater kept the cab warm, but the isolation was pressing. That is when I saw movement. At the edge of the tree line behind the truck stop, a figure emerged. He walked carefully, almost cautiously, stepping from shadow into the snow. His coat was dark, blending into the trunks behind him. I could not see his face clearly, but his eyes seemed to fix on me the moment he stepped into the clearing. My instincts kicked in. I was alone, the lot empty except for a few parked trucks. The highway beyond was white and featureless. This man could have any intention. He could be lost like me, or he could be something far worse. He raised a hand slightly. His voice carried over the wind. "Hey driver, do you need some help?" I shook my head slowly. "I'm fine. I'm just waiting for the snow to calm down a bit. I'll be leaving soon." He nodded once, but did not step back. Instead, he took a few deliberate steps closer. "It's dangerous out there. You should not stay alone." There was a stiffness to his movements, a stubbornness in his stance. He expected me to get out of the cab. I could feel it. My heart rate quickened, not from magic or fantasy, but from the very real possibility that leaving the cab would put me in danger. I said, "I do not need help," I said louder this time. My hands gripped the wheel. My mind raced through every scenario. If I stepped out, what could he do? If I stayed, would he go away? He did not speak again. He just stood there, letting the snow fall around him. I could see his outline clearly now, the way he watched me, patient, stubborn, waiting for me to make a mistake. I considered driving off. The snow made the lot slick and visibility was poor, but I had to get away. I turned the key and the engine hummed to life. I edged the truck toward the exit, keeping an eye on him. That is when I noticed movement behind the first man. Another figure stepped from the trees, then another. In total, there were 3 more men emerging, each moving deliberately through the snow. My stomach sank. They did not run, they did not wave, they just moved slowly, purposefully, toward the edge of the lot. It hit me all at once. Their goal was to get me out of the cab. Once I stepped out, there would be no telling what they would do. I pressed the accelerator. Tires slid on packed snow. I kept glancing in the mirrors. The first man did not move. He just watched as I pulled away. The other 3 followed the edge of the lot, keeping their distance just outside the reach of my headlights. I pushed harder, the truck groaning as I navigated the snowy lot. Every second felt like hours. I glanced at the tree line again. The men had stopped at the edge of the clearing, watching silently, waiting for any sign of weakness. The snowstorm swallowed everything behind me. By the time I reached the highway, the men were gone from my view. I did not slow down. I dared not. The fear I felt was not from anything supernatural. It was from the certainty that those men had been prepared to act, to take advantage of a driver in the wrong place at the wrong time. The road stretched ahead, white and empty. I kept glancing in the mirrors, half expecting to see shadows following in the storm. None appeared, yet the sense of being watched remained. When I finally reached a larger highway with other trucks moving through the snow, I forced myself to slow. I could see the taillights of distant vehicles. I reminded myself I was safe, but I could not shake the memory of the lot, of the men standing silently in the snow, waiting for the right moment. I thought about what might have happened if I had stepped out. I don't want to know. The thought alone made my hands shake long after the storm had faded. I have never stopped at an isolated truck stop during a snowstorm again. I never slow down in empty lots. I never underestimate the dangers of isolation. Because I know now that some people wait in the trees, patiently, for the right moment to strike. And when they do, it is not fantasy, it is real. I was driving with my wife and our 8-year-old son along a rural highway in the northern United States. The snowstorm had started unexpectedly in the afternoon, but the forecast had underestimated it. By early evening, the flakes were thick and heavy, and visibility was practically zero. The highway was empty, except for occasional tracks from trucks or other cars. We had been making slow progress for hours when the snow became so heavy that the car barely moved. Soon, the snow had begun to pile around the wheels. We pulled over at a small turnout, hoping the storm would calm down long enough for us to continue. We sat in the car, watching the snow build up. The windshield was quickly covered, and I could see that if it kept snowing at this rate, we might not be able to get the car out at all. "This is not good," I said to my wife, pressing the windshield wiper button repeatedly to keep the glass clear. My son peeked over the console. "Is this going to stop us, Dad?" he asked, voice small and nervous. "We will be fine, buddy. We just need to wait a little," I reassured him, though I was uncertain myself. We knew sitting in the car for too long was risky. If the snow kept piling up, we could be trapped. That was when my wife noticed a faint outline in the distance. It looked like a small wooden structure, not quite a proper cabin. "Maybe someone is there," she said. "Maybe we can ask for help." I hesitated. The wind howled, and the snow swirled across the open road. It was isolated. There could be no one there, or there could be danger, but the risk of staying in the car seemed greater. We grabbed our coats and gloves, helped our son into his snow boots, and began walking toward the small wooden house. The snow was deep, almost reaching our knees at some points. Every step was a struggle. As we walked, I felt the faintest trace of movement behind us, a sound like a branch snapping underfoot. I glanced back quickly, but there was nothing, just snow swirling in the wind. "Maybe it's just the snow," I said to myself. I tried to focus on the cabin ahead, but the unease would not leave me. Every few steps, I felt as though someone might be following us, just out of sight. Finally, we reached the clearing where the cabin stood. That's when we saw him. A man emerged from the trees, tall, dark coat blending into the shadows. His face was pale and angular, eyes fixed on us as he stepped forward. The snow crunched under his boots, deliberate, echoing in the quiet storm. "Do you guys need some help?" he called out, voice low, calm, but somehow menacing. We hesitated. The cabin was just ahead, but the man was still some distance from us. I could see the way he watched us, patient, assessing. Something about him did not feel right. "I think we're okay," I said cautiously. "We were just going to wait inside the cabin." He took a step closer. "It's dangerous out here. You should not stay in the snow like this." My wife gripped my arm tightly. "Maybe we should just go back to the car," she whispered. I agreed. The unease had become almost unbearable. We began moving back toward the car, walking faster now, almost running through the snow. The wind whipped against us, stinging our faces, but something worse than the storm weighed on me, the feeling that we were being watched. When we reached the edge of the clearing near the car, I froze for a moment. The man from the cabin was there again, not alone. Another figure stood beside him, tall, broad, faceless in the shadows. Panic set in. My son clutched my coat, shivering. My wife whispered, "We need to get out of here now." I nodded. The snowstorm had become a blur around us. I started the engine, tires spinning as we tried to back out. That's when we saw a truck on the road, a large vehicle spreading salt. I waved frantically, hoping the driver would notice us. The truck slowed, pulled to a stop nearby. 2 men stepped out of the cab. Relief surged through me. The moment the truck stopped, the first 2 men, the creepy men who had been following us, turned and ran back toward the trees, vanishing into the snowstorm. We climbed into the truck, hearts still racing. The 2 men in the cab of the salt truck offered blankets and water, but we barely listened. We just wanted to put distance between us and the figures in the trees. As the salt truck moved forward, the snow swirling around us, I kept glancing back. The road behind us was empty. No one was chasing us. Yet the memory of their presence, their patient watching, the way they had positioned themselves so deliberately, it did not leave me. By the time we reached the next town, the snowstorm had begun to calm. We were safe physically, but the psychological impact lingered. My son was quiet, too aware of the tension in our parents. My wife and I exchanged looks, unspoken words hanging between us. I've never stopped at an isolated road during a snowstorm again. Even now, I drive through storms with my eyes constantly on the trees lining the road, imagining what might be hiding, watching. Because those men in the snow, whatever their intentions, they were patient, calculated, and willing to wait for the perfect moment. And I know now that some people wait in the shadows of winter storms, watching travelers who have no choice but to walk into the open. Because when they do, it's real. I was not supposed to stop there. I knew that even before I turned off the highway. The sign for the rest area came out of the snow like a ghost, half covered, bent slightly backward. One of the lights above it flickered like it was barely hanging on. I remember thinking that if the storm was bad enough to make the highway disappear, it was probably bad enough to shut a place like that down. But I had been driving for hours. My eyes burned. My hands were stiff from gripping the steering wheel. The snow was coming down harder now, thick enough that my headlights felt useless past a few car lengths. I told myself I would just pull in, stretch my legs, maybe use the restroom if it was open. 5 minutes. That was the lie I used. The exit ramp was unplowed. My tires slid slightly as I slowed, the car fishtailing just enough to make my chest tighten. I corrected and rolled forward until the parking lot opened up in front of me. It was almost completely empty. Only one other vehicle sat there, parked far from the building. A dark SUV. The rest area building was dark, no interior lights, no movement. Snow drifted against the doors like it had been piling up for hours. I parked closer to the entrance than the SUV, angled my car so I could leave quickly if I needed to. I shut off the engine and sat there for a moment, listening to the ticking sound of metal cooling and the wind pressing against the doors. That was when I noticed something off. The SUV was not parked crooked. It was positioned perfectly straight, wheels aligned, engine off, no lights on. It looked deliberate, like someone had parked it carefully and walked away. I stepped out anyway. The cold hit hard, not sharp, but heavy. Snow immediately soaked into my shoes as I walked toward the building. The glass doors were locked. Inside, the lobby was dark, empty, and silent. Closed. I exhaled slowly and turned back toward my car. The SUV door was open, just slightly, enough to notice. I stopped walking. My first thought was that maybe the driver had just come back. Maybe they were using the restroom somewhere else. But the snow around the SUV was untouched. No fresh footprints, no tracks leading away. Only the open door. I got back into my car and locked the doors. I told myself I was overthinking it, that storms make people do weird things, that maybe the door had not been shut all the way and the wind pushed it open. I started the engine. Before I put the car in gear, I glanced toward the SUV again. The door was closed now. That was not possible. I had not taken my eyes off that side of the lot for more than a second. I reversed slowly, planning to pull back onto the ramp and leave. As my car turned, my headlights swept across the parking lot. The SUV was closer. Not by much, but enough. I stopped reversing. My hands stayed on the wheel. I stared at the SUV, trying to convince myself it had always been there, that I just misjudged the distance. Then, the headlights behind the SUV flicked on. High beams. Blinding white light flooded the lot. I slammed my car into drive and hit the gas. The tires spun for a second before catching. I headed straight for the exit, heart hammering, eyes locked on the ramp. The SUV did not follow. That almost made it worse. I merged back onto the highway, snow swallowing the road again, visibility dropping. After a minute, I slowed down, forcing myself to breathe. I laughed once, a nervous sound. I told myself I imagined it. 10 minutes later, the SUV passed me. It came out of the snow on my left side, close enough that I could see inside. There were at least 2 people in the front, both staring straight ahead. They did not look at me. They did not acknowledge me. They passed slowly, then moved in front of me, brake lights glowing red through the white storm. I slowed instinctively. They did too. They stayed in front of me for a mile. Then, their turn signal came on. The same rest area sign appeared ahead. They took the exit. I did not. I kept going. My stomach twisted as the ramp disappeared behind me. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The road ahead became blocked. Not officially. No barricades, no signs. Just cars. Abandoned vehicles sat at odd angles, half buried in snow. Some with doors open, some with hazard lights dead and frozen. I slowed to a crawl. There was no safe way around. The snow was too deep on the shoulders. I stopped, sat there. The engine idled. And then I saw headlights behind me. The SUV. They stopped several car lengths back. No horn, no flash of lights, just waiting. I grabbed my phone. No signal. I checked the mirrors. Movement. Someone stepped out of the SUV. Then another. They did not rush. They spread out. One stayed near their vehicle. One moved along the tree line. One walked slowly toward my car. I put the car in reverse. The engine stalled. My hands shook as I restarted it. The man outside stopped walking. He raised one hand, not waving, not signaling, just showing me his palm, like he wanted me to see it. I floored the gas. The car lurched backward and slammed into one of the abandoned vehicles behind me. Metal crunched. The airbags didn't deploy, but the engine stalled again. The man outside started running. I got the engine started and turned the wheel hard, scraping along the side of the abandoned car, forcing my way onto the shoulder. Snow dragged at the tires, trying to pull me down. I did not stop. Branches slapped the sides of the car as I pushed through the shallow trees, ignoring the grinding sounds underneath. Behind me, I saw figures moving, chasing, slipping, falling. I burst back onto the highway farther ahead, fishtailed, corrected, and drove. I did not slow down for an hour. When I finally reached a lit town, I pulled into a gas station and stayed in the car, shaking. The police came. They went back later. They told me they found the abandoned cars. They did not find the SUV. They did not find the people. They did find fresh footprints leading into the woods. More than 3. I don't stop at rest areas anymore, especially not empty ones, especially not in the snow.